comes from Martin MOMuilleoir to conclude and wind up the debate on the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and my thanks to everyone from all the parties here who took part in the debate. The debate was around alternative ways or extra ways to raise revenues, but it turned into quite an existential debate on where we are in political terms and constitutional terms at this stage. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that Daithí McKay for Sinn Féin did set out some areas where we think there could be changes and other areas where we think we should start an urgent debate. In particular, of course, we have identified removing the cap on rates on homes above £400,000. We think we can do that without putting anyone who is asset rich and cash poor, putting them into added difficulties. We also looked at the Scottish model and what we can learn from there. That to the side, from the other parties, there was at this stage slim pickings in terms of additional means to raise revenue. That said, I think the debate is worthwhile because it's certainly useful for this House to continue to look at the block grant, the subvention, where the money is and where the money isn't. And I'm a great admirer of my colleague on DFP, Mr Girvan, who said in the most kind terms possible that the Treasury sometimes keeps us in the dark about what money is being raised here, and that's undoubtedly true. There is certainly a lack of transparency and a lack of trust in the figures that the Treasury provides us with, and I think we need to do better on that. And we need also then to do better when we discuss the block grant and we discuss what the Finance Minister, Mr Hamilton, refers to as the £10 billion gap. I think we need to look at that carefully as well. I spent the weekend on a treasure hunt for the £10 billion. Our colleagues in the research department give me a certain amount of help. But when we look at what makes up the gap, there are items there which in fact make little or no difference to ordinary people, the ordinary people and constituents we serve. I think in particular that $1 billion of that £10 billion is debt. Another $1 billion plus is what the Treasury refers to as defence. Defence and debt, of course, being closely linked in this day and age. And I think that we owe it to our constituents to drill down, to question the Treasury, both about what we raise and also what they say as part of the subvention and block grant for this part of the world. And this goes to the core of the debate we have in the Finance Committee on a weekly basis, the need to understand where we are today and how we can increase our firepower and enhance our firepower and spending power in the time ahead. There have been suggestions some of the smaller parties support water charges, support the removal of free travel. Both large parties are against that. We stand foursquare against the introduction of water charges. We stand against the removal of free travel, and that remains our position. But we shouldn't be paralysed from looking at other ways to raise revenues. One of the things that surprises me in the chamber is that the Minister referred last week to this Parliament being a toddler and the Scottish being either first-year primary school or a kindergarten. And I'm wholly opposed to that type of language. That seems to be the type of language which will be music to the ears of English ministers. And in my view, we are as capable of running our own affairs as those same English ministers. And there is a very famous book by Senator Jim Webb called The Fighting Irish. It's not about the Fighting Irish, it's about the fighting Ulster Scots of America. And I would like to see, when we go into negotiations with the Treasury, I'd like to see that Ulster Scot, not only the work ethic, but the character, resilience, determination to stand up for our constituents, to stand up for our voters and make sure that we get a fair deal so we can build an economy which is both fair and prosperous. I think Mr Cree was afraid we were going to lead him into the Republic today because he went back to 1969 and the crossroads. Ms Boyle's crossroads, of course, but your crossroads, Mr O'Neill's crossroads as well. That encouraged your leader to go back 100 years to what may be a golden era, but as Mr McCann pointed out, not everyone shared in that golden era. I think we can look confidently to the future, but that does make it incumbent upon all of us to look in a critical manner at the the effects of the links with Britain and this dependency as it is on a block grant. There has been, and Mr McCann alluded to this, but there are two sides to this coin. Tomorrow at the Economy Committee we will discuss underinvestment in water and sewerage, underinvestment in the road network, and of course there are parts of the north of Ireland which have been constantly left outside of economic prosperity and development. We think of the North West, and that debate continues today, and North and West Belfast. And Mr McQuillan referenced West Belfast and South Armagh, but of course West Belfast is more than just the Falls Road and Ballymurphy. It's also the Shankill Road, as he would appreciate. And that is why I think we can do better than go by what happened heretofore. That is that we will depend absolutely and entirely on this block grant and bring no innovative thinking to that, and bring no assertive or confident approach to how we can better run our own affairs. So where some see altruism, English altruism, or the altruism of English ministers, I would take a wholly different view. And we hear this often from Scotland, but also from others, that as London surges ahead, even as that happens, we are constantly assured that the decisions taken in London are to our benefit. And I don't really think that holds. And Minister Hamilton did mention some possible Barnett consequentials which may derive from an increased expenditure on health and education if that happens. But I also read the news, and the spending decisions of recent days will make no difference to the spending promises and decisions of recent days will make no difference to our constituents. So £3 billion on a new aircraft carrier, £20 billion on a new generation of fighter jets. Where are the benefits in that type of spending to us? Although, of course, that will be part of the magic 20 billion subvention that we are told we get. Sadly, the agenda of austerity remains top of the Tory government, the Tory coalition's agenda. Austerity for us, I think, only spells further misery for the poor, for working people. It is not the solution to our economic progress. I think we need investment to bring progress, not more cuts. The Minister has told us again today that we have lost £1.5 billion from the block grant since 2010, 2011, and we stand ready to lose another billion between now and 2020. Those are the type of decisions which I think only hold us back and which do not give us the type of impetus we need to push into the future. So, in reference to the Alliance amendment, my colleagues, Ms Cochrane and Mr Little, they cut out the most important statement in the Sinn Féin motion, which is we support the 15-16 budget. And you can't have your cake and eat it. You're opposed to the budget. The alternative to the budget was the horror story, which would be direct rule. So we will take on board when you come forward with ideas for revenue raising, and no one has a monopoly on those. But for now, we can't back the Alliance amendment.
MOMuilleoir Could I ask the member what specific revenue-raising proposals he is coming forward with? Because he hasn't mentioned any yet.
Well, if you had been listening, we actually mentioned removing the cap on rates above homes valued at £400,000 or more. I didn't mention the contributions from the SDLP, which were new and interesting. Unfortunately, the pieces which were interesting were not new, and the pieces which were new were not interesting. They were basically election manifestos. But we have come up with ideas, and I think that you see, and if you were listening, you would know what those ideas are. I want to finish with a visit I made to the Scottish Parliament last week, where I saw great exuberance, great energy, great confidence, perhaps not unrelated to the fact that over half, or around half, just under half of the members are women. But to finish with a quote from Nicola Sturgeon, which I think is very relevant to this debate today and where we're going. And that is that she says, "I believe and will always believe that the best way forward is to be in charge of our own resources, so we don't have to be subject to the kind of cuts coming at us from the UK government, but instead could be masters of our own destiny." I think that's a very good way in which to finish this particular debate.